Hi, everybody. This is Shaman Jon Rasmussen, and my very special guest today is a shamanic sister of mine that we trained together many, many years ago. And is a bridge between the seen and the unseen. Chandra Sun Eagle is an innate healer, shamanic ceremonialist, published author, visionary founder of Sonko Via Sanctuary, with formal training in Andean shamanism, Hawaiian Huna, energy medicine, and indigenous ceremonies. Chandra combines ancient wisdom with modern practices to guide others on their healing journeys. She's been facilitating master plant ceremonies for over 16 years. She holds a degree in exercise physiology and brings over 35 years of expertise in the healing arts, including polarity therapy, craniosacral therapy, Thai massage, pranic healing, and sound healing. As a spiritual guide and author of Looking Back on the Future, Timeless Wisdom of the Andes as a Bridge into the New Era, Chandra also provides spiritual journeys to the Andes of Peru. Growing up in the mountains of Colorado, she developed a deep connection to nature and a holistic approach to life that embodies compassion, resilience, and joy. Known for her compassionate presence and exuberant spirit, Chandra's passion is helping others achieve liberation within, healing, and a sense of wholeness in body, mind, and spirit. So I'm really excited to have Chandra on the program, and I love her comprehensive experience and training. So thanks for coming on, Chandra. How are you?
Oh, thank you, John. I'm really good, and I'm so happy to see you after so many years, and I wanted to thank you for creating this space for us to come together and share in the conversation of where we're at and these amazing times.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been fun and I love it. And you're right. We're in amazing times, right? Like 20 years ago when we were training and all that. And it's like, okay, we got this. This stuff's great. We know what to do. Everyone's going to come and get healed. And man, by 20 years from now, we're going to be living in paradise. And it's like, well,
Well,
patience has been one of the biggest lessons in that, at least for me. How are things? Tell me, please tell us, like what's been your journey, right? People know my journey. They know me if they're on this channel. But I love to hear what you've been experiencing and with your work and still experiencing and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, gosh, where to begin without making this a 5-hour story?
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to just say hello to your listeners as well. And gosh, it's been a beautiful, wild adventure, I would say. And that sort of fits with my soul, my spirit. Um, yeah, so when we met in 2003, yeah,
Mhm.
in Peru,
Right,
right?
right. It was on a Peru trip. With the Four Winds, I believe, right? It was with the Four Winds, the
Yeah,
Healing the Life Body School.
yeah.
Yeah. Up
And
there.
I believe you went to Ausangate and I went to Salcantay.
Right. Which for our listeners, Alsangate is the Caro tribe's holy mountain that essentially I think represents the masculine, and Salcantay represents the feminine, just in a nutshell, right? And so different energies and different purposes. I think Alsangate was the easier one, and Salcantay was the harder one, which was why I went to Alsangate because you being this athlete from Colorado and yeah, me being pretty much a couch surfer at the time, I think it was
Were
appropriate.
you? But we were all in the Sacred Valley for a while together in
Mhm.
Machu Picchu and yeah, really magical times until we made the separate journeys. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was called to Salcantay. It was my very first shamanic training with the Four Winds, and I didn't start in the typical south direction. I was going to, and then I don't know, something just told me I was supposed to take a different course. So I was thrown into the one of the uh, I don't know if you call it a master class or
Right. Yeah. A little bit out of order, but that's okay. That's how I did the same thing.
I
Because
like
you probably, like me, I think you got to this because you'd been doing, I mean, we're born this way, right? Essentially, we're born with these funky gifts, right? And we're confused most of our life if we're not raised in indigenous culture as to why are we so strange and what are we picking up on? And then we try a bunch of different things and then like I did discovered, the shamanic training, which is a beautifully comprehensive thing that pulls it all together and gives you the ability to do this and stay safe. And and you go, okay, well, I'm just going to follow where I'm called, right? So you jumped in to a master class, which again, why you went to Salcantay, I went to Alsangate, but you know, definitely more. But anyway, so
yeah.
is
So
that
I
right? So basically, you got involved in this, and then you
Well,
got
I
called.
had been, yeah, and I had been in the healing arts for a while. I was studying, I was just beginning my therapy studies. I had been on Vision Quest working with some Lakota women. Um, I had learned Thai massage and so yeah, I was in it and I just was hungry for more. I just felt like there was more. And the dreams began and the visitations from the spirit world. And the theme of the dreams was other lifetimes, sometimes being a medicine woman, sometimes being a medicine man, distinctly three different cultures, or which was Hawaii. Lands in those landscapes in those dreams were of North America and South America. So, like you said, I followed the guidance until something very synchronistic happened. A woman came to my get a Thai massage, and she was in a deep state of relaxation and sat up in the middle of it and said, "When are you going to become the medicine woman that you are?" And then flopped back down, and I was like, "Whoa, that was intense." So after at the end of the massage, I said, I don't know, we were just kind of talking and I was curious if she was going to remember what she said and she didn't.
Wow.
And I kind of let it go. But then she mentioned this woman that was coming that represented the Four Winds Society and was going to be offering sessions. And she said she's a assistant to Alberto Bialdo. He's written this book, Shaman Healer Sage, and that was when my whole body just lit up, And for a good 6 months to a year before that, I was I was doing what I was doing and loving it, but also feeling a little bit, there's something more. And so she left. I hopped on my bike, went to the bookstore, got that book, and just devoured it. And on a soul level, I understood it, and on a mind level, I was like, well, how can this be? Like you said, I wasn't raised in an indigenous culture. I was living in LA at the time, and so anyway, I did end up having a session with Linda, and there was a major soul retrieval that happened, which then she said, I get the sense that you're supposed to be in Peru with us in a couple of months. And I was like, yeah, I think that's right, but I feel like I need maybe a little preparation. And she's so, guided me toward the light body school and the medicine wheel work. And I only had a couple of months, and so I was like, what was really fitting with me was this description of this course called Reading the Signs of Destiny, because that's what I was like, I want to understand myself, all this that's awakening, these visitations, this is a lot, and I didn't have a teacher or a guide to help me, kind of piece it together. So I got into that course, and Alberto was teaching part of it, which was really fortunate because he wasn't always in all the classes. And one night he took from his mesa, or we were able to come to his mesa and choose a stone to sleep with, which we were to put on our third eye and sleep with that. So that night, as I was falling asleep, I felt this presence next to my bed, and it was whispering Salkantai, Salkantai. I'd never heard the word before. And I had a dream that night of Alberto kind of morphing in and out of a hummingbird. And he shot an arrow from his heart to my heart, and he said, "Are you going to answer the call?" So I woke up in the morning a little bit like not really remembering much. And then as I was driving to class, it started coming back. And then, of course, the first thing that Alberto announces it was in class that morning was the mountain journeys coming up, and one was to Salkantai. And I was like, "That's that word." And so
Yeah.
I approached him afterwards, and I said, I told him about the dream, and he said, "Well, are you going to answer the call?" And he's like, "We have a couple spots left." So that's how I got to Salkantai, which was just an amazing journey.
Yeah, I love that. Such a great story because it's very similar to my experience. These synchronicities. Somebody says a word, a little while later, you have a dream, then you hear the word. I mean, this is this that alone, the process alone of how people like us get called to do work as strange to us as this, right? Who weren't raised in a culture where they recognized the little shaman at age 4 and said, "Okay, you're the next shaman, and boy, we're going to start your training now." I mean, some of those, the indigenous, the cultures that still recognize it, still do that. And here we are, floundering in our modern Western cultures, but it doesn't. We're still Homo sapiens. We're still born with these gifts, some people, and had lost the context for it. And if it wasn't for what just happened, what you just described, if it wasn't for these odd synchronicities, like we would be pretty thick. Most people would be, at least I'll speak for myself, a little bit too thick to like think I'm going to be a shaman. Like I just read a cool book and that's what I want to do. It's like, no, like I needed the sort of the hammer over the head of that person said this, then this person said that, and the next thing you know, you show up here, and it's the vision that you had. Like, I think people need to like get it right, because one of the beautiful things of creation of this world, in my experience, is the magic, the miracles, the synchronicities, the things that are odd that shouldn't happen. You think of somebody they call. To me, that's just like, yes, there is something going on beyond what we can see, and it knows what it's doing. And it's, and of course some people will say, well, that's not always good. Sometimes it could be a negative force trying to direct us, and it's like, the difference. If you have any discernment, and you were already a healer, you already came into the world in different forms, you knew you wanted to help people, you wanted to be friendly, kind, generous, you wanted people's souls to light up and to be healed, and for the world to become heaven on earth. I mean, these were the starting points of how you and I and others like us were born. And then when you start to ask, well, what do I do next? What would be my path? How could I expand my work? How can I help more people? And then you start to get these beautiful synchronicities from like-minded people who are also good people, and it's also good work, and it has zero to do with making deals with negative entities or beings, which is sorcery. I always talk about it's a whole different ball game that I would not want to get involved in, and I don't think is a good thing. But like when these things are happening, it's beautiful, and it's worth following. It's worth following up on. It's worth exploring, right? Like, I mean, where would you be if you went, no, 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 this is all ridiculous. I'm not signing up for any of this stuff, right? I mean, am
Yeah,
I right? Like,
yeah, totally. No, I hear what you're saying, and I don't know where I'd be. And I honestly, when you have, you know, my prayer was, how can I be of service? Because I knew that being of service would bring fulfillment for me. And,
mhm,
you know, I I would say that this journey has been like just a full remembering, and I want to remember the totality of who I am. And I've had experiences like very profound, very aware of my oneness and out of body,
mhm.
down at my body, and all of these things were, I would say that they weren't I wasn't like, I gotta reach enlightenment, or like, I gotta learn how to open my third eye, or I wanna be a channel. I didn't even, I wasn't even like, oh, I wanna be a shaman. Like, I had resistance to it all, which told me and wouldn't stop. The callings wouldn't stop, the dreams wouldn't stop. And I'd be like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I just, I don't know, I'm gonna be a little my surfer girl, and I want to live a life of joy, but I also want to be of service. And it's like, as Alberto says, it's like we call on spirit, and the flip of the agreement is when spirit calls on us, we answer.
Yes. Yeah, the reluctant healer, right? I love it because it just it feels so authentic to me when there is that part of us that understands on some level that this is not the easiest life choice. This is not this kind of service, as with many, I mean, whether you're a missionary in a religion, or you're, you know, teaching or helping people in third world countries, war torn, like reporters, like there are certain teachers, grade school teachers, like there is certain work that's heroic, right, that you don't necessarily do because you got a smile on your face from ear to ear because it's like the funnest thing ever. It's cool when neat things happen, but honestly, to me, this kind of work is typically that, like, wait, yeah, Alberto did say it. He goes, you call on spirit, or you call on power, and service, and and it finds you at 3 o'clock in the morning before you had your coffee, and it drags you out of bed and says, let's go. And it's like, I mean, ER docs understand this. Like, these are all like different forms of medicine people in different lines of work. But I think anyone in any of that kind of work, being a mother, for goodness sake, right? Like, just
Absolutely.
deciding you're going to spend 18 years taking care of this being. And I mean, it is heroic, and it's not easy, nor, I would venture to say, is it as fulfilling in the sense of how many times have you had people say, wow, you must you must love your work, or boy, you must be really happy to go to work every day. And you're like, uh it depends how many demons I'm extracting from this person today. Like, it's like, and then the training is no praise, no blame, right? Because you get in the way if you're doing it because you want to feel good and helpful. The paradox is part of our shamanic training, especially this beautiful training in the Four Winds, was if something really good happens, you didn't do it. You held space, you called on spirit, the person healed themselves, you facilitated or whatever. And so, don't get all pumped up about it. Like, 10,000
Exactly.
successful sessions later, the next one, you're going, God, I hope I know what I'm doing, and I hope it works. And geez, I'm a fraud. I don't know how to do this stuff. You know, that's the true
Yeah.
shamanism, right? And then when something, that way of something, you can't control people's free will. So you do some beautiful work, but they still go out and do something to kind of get wounded again, or or mess themselves up in some way, you also can't go, oh, geez, I failed. I'm a failure. I'm going to go back to something else. I
Absolutely.
mean, what do you think? Have you had that experience? Because that's been mine. Like, this isn't exactly like the easiest work.
No, or yes, I have had a lot of that. And I realized that, once I did say yes, and, here I am on this journey in Peru and all these sign signals and synchronicities and literally like time stopping in the mountain of Alsangate, like, or sorry, Salcantay washing through me. I still was like, well, I'm not sure yet. I need to think about it. So
Right.
when I did say yes, and I've had to say yes, many times throughout the path,
Yeah.
um, it was like, it was like an eagle or a condor. It was like they just came down and put their claws in my back and my shoulders, and it was like, okay, she said yes, grab her. And in that moment, I knew that my life was not my own.
Right.
Like this paradox of, yes, I signed up for this, and if I want to be really true to my prayer of being of service and awakening within me all that I came into this lifetime to sort of, reincarnate into, like, I gotta surrender. And, to me, surrender is not passive, and it's not, it's about holding that discernment and developing your integrity. And, yeah, it's been a path of initiation. So, I think 2 years after being in Peru for the first time, that was, the dreams of these beautiful, feminine forces in the form of plants and vines would just come night after night and were giving me these visions of this mystery school that I needed to start. And synchronicities happened in 2005. I moved to Kauai.
Hmm.
So it was a very like, once I said yes, it was like this acceleration of, go here, now go there. Okay, you're gonna move here. That was, Kauai was home. Meaning I had been there several times, felt like it was a home. And at the same time, it was like, well, wait a minute, maybe wasn't I supposed to be down in Peru, because that's what was like, really, I don't know, the lands and everything speaking to me. And it was like, no, you're gonna go live on Kauai, and you're gonna be going to Peru. And at the time when I moved to Kauai, talking about just this like authenticity with who we are as a human, and then awakening, you could say, our, more of our spirit gifts. And yeah, there was definitely doubt that would come in. And I often would joke that, like, when I got to Kauai, I felt like I was searching for my tribe, and I was, going out and meeting people, and also presenting, like I do this shamanic healing and blah blah blah. I couldn't pay people. I was like, I couldn't pay people to come get a session with me. And it was
Right.
so odd, because before that it was like, I was flourishing in my work, and I was like, what does this mean? And there was a period of like 2 weeks where I felt I wasn't sick, I didn't have a fever, but I could not get out of bed. And that was so not like me. Like, I was like a little Energizer bunny. And I just felt like I had just this massive Hawaiian mama laying on top of me saying, you need to learn how to surrender. And I already thought I had like surrendered, and I was like,
Yeah. Right.
I would surrender, and I would lay there, and then, it was like I'd get up, get a little food, a little water, and it was like, I gotta go back to bed. So this went on for a couple weeks, and then, I don't know, finally I had exhausted myself and surrendered, and it was like, okay, I can get up. And I went to the ocean and I surfed. That lasted for about 2 days, and I was like, okay, I gotta get back on my, like, meeting people and letting people know I'm here, because, I was a little bit also in that survival mode of like, well, I gotta make some money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, um, I know this is a little off topic what you were asking me, but as I mentioned before we were talking, I can just kind of let myself.
Oh, yeah, no, it's all good. I love it. It's
Okay,
good
okay,
stuff because
okay.
it's making me think of some things, like about how when you go into a new space, a new culture, a new land, a new history, new energetics,
Yes, new
that
energy signatures. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which,
if you're sincere in this journey of shamanism, which I always considered to be the open system, right? Like it's not in spite of the way it's taught sometimes, where you have to teach a certain basic set of processes and set of ways of doing it, and it is somewhat culturally based. For example, the Andean versus the jungle shamanism with the plants versus different parts of Peru, and then then yes, you've got the Hawaiian Huna, and you've got Same in Finland. Like it's everywhere. It's all over the planet, but it is colored by the energy and the space and the history and the names and the language of where you are. And but if you're sincere, you as a shaman, you remain humble, which is like humus, open soil, right? Good planting soil that's airy. You remain able to continue to learn and grow and expand and take on new knowledge. We if anything, we're comfortable with the unknowable, right? In the unknown. Like we know that there is a ton of stuff in spite of how many years we've been working that we're still going to learn, and we're still going to grow. Don't know how, don't know where, don't know from where. And you might show up at a place like you did, which I think is beautiful, and go, I thought I had this dialed, and then just be slammed and go, no, sister, you need to chill, and you need to let this stuff absorb into
yep.
your openings, your humus, be humble. And then that now you've got another piece to your medicine. Like my original Native American medicine woman teacher said, we all got like rainbows, which is like a barcode. We've all got different color. Each healer has a different set of colors based on their history and their DNA and their location and where they learned and their teachers. And that the people who will come to you will resonate with that set of colors, and they'll go to someone else if they resonate with someone else. You're not here to heal everybody, obviously. There's going to be a small group of people that are going to be your clients, but it speaks to that because it's like you got upgrade, you added some colors when you went to Hawaii that I don't like. I am not hugely adept nor spent enough time with Hawaiian Huna to suggest, to say that, right? And yet you do have that, and it's powerful. We know it's powerful. I mean, I know enough about. I've been around enough Hawaii and Hawaiians to know that that's intense fire. That's intense work. That's not for the faint of heart either.
Yeah.
And it all of this stuff is right, isn't it? Alberto has said, this is work that's fraught with opportunity and danger. You don't do this work thinking, I'm safe, because we're not. Right? So continue on with your story, please. So you got the training in Hawaii somehow. Well, you tell me.
Yeah,
You tell
yeah.
us.
So, I got to the island and was living in a house, and one of the events that I saw was a winter solstice sound healing with this woman, and I just knew I was supposed to be there, and it was way beyond just the sound healing. Well, it ended up being this beautiful octagon space in Kahuna Valley. And so as I was driving up the road and I crossed this little bridge, and you're right up against this amazing mountain called Makaleha, and which is to see something of such beauty that you're in awe of it. And I was in awe. I had to pull my Jeep over and just pause. And my whole body again was vibrating with energy. I pull up into the space where the octagon was, and the first thing that this woman announces is that there were certain lands in the Kahuna Valley that were for sale, and that her prayer, because she didn't live there, but I think wanted to live in the valley, but also um,
Hmm.
uh, was thinking about purchasing one of these properties. Her prayer was that the right stewards, and we talk about this path of service. It's like, well, we are stewards of the sacred, stewards of the land, right? Stewards of the
Yeah.
wisdom. and stewards of the love and stewards of ourselves. And she says, so I would just like to ask that, if we can all hold a collective intention that the right stewards of this valley, and it's not developers that come in,
Hmm.
will come in and be able to have the resources that they need to. And I was like, I was like a little kid. I was like, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I was so excited. I was like jumping out of my seat, and she was kind of looked at me and smiled. It was a beautiful, beautiful night, a beautiful evening. The next morning I woke up and I was like, I have to go back to that valley, and I gotta like, I love to ride my bike, wind in my hair and going slow, and and I love to walk, and that's how I connect with lands and areas. So I was like, I gotta go back there. So I rode my bike up there. I passed the property that had the octagon, and I got to the next. It was a 5-acre parcel, and nothing had been built on it. No one was living on it. And I just, like, my whole body, it said, stop. I stopped. I looked over this gate, and there was, very jungly, obviously, the garden island. And there was one tree in the middle of the lower portion of this property, and there were all these amazing beings, light beings, and beings I didn't even recognize. Some I recognized from my heart energetically, and they said, "Welcome home." And I was like, "Okay, I want to be home." And I went home. I had a few friends, and I was like, "We have to buy this land. We have to come together, and we have to buy this land." They were
I
all,
love it.
"Yeah, it's $1 million, Chandra." I'm like, "I know, but like you guys have said you want to be part of this vision that's coming together, this sort of mystery school, and to be stewards of the sacred. So,
Mm.
like, here's our land. Like, let's make it happen." So we were able to make that happen about a year later. And I was scared. Like you said, it's like this
Oh
path,
yeah.
because the energy was so big and so powerful, and I didn't know if I had what it took. I didn't know, like, what I was in for. And um it was I was there for 11 years. Ended up developing kind of an eco sanctuary where I could host sleep about 5 or 6 people. So living with the elements, but also protected. And it was people that would come to that land that would, like, drop on their knees and cry. Like, it was such a pure portal of
Wow.
coming home. And it was such
Mm.
an honor. And it was, boy, I went through the initiations, but on that land, the there was this kind of grove of trees, and I was like, that it just always kept calling me in, and I had to do a lot of like, kind of energetic clearing. And once I did, I sat down, and there were these big, huge pohaku, big stone people, record
Wow.
keepers. And so I went to one of them, put my hands on, and I said, just tell me why I'm here. Tell me what you want me to do. And um, the one stone said, you're here to rebirth the energies and the codes of Lemuria, the motherland.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, okay, that sounds big. Okay. And I went to another stone, and it almost like a queen. She had these beautiful flowers and vines growing up her back. And she said, you're here to help the assistants with the queen sitting back on her throne. And I was like, again, one of those things of like, am I making this up? I'm like, I don't think I could make this up, actually. So I asked questions. I said, you mean the Queen of Hawaii, like Queen Liliuokalani, who was, overthrown illegally? And said, no, no, not the Queen of Hawaii. And I said, okay, the Queen of Lemuria. Mm, how about let's go with the Galactic Queen? And that was like, wow, okay, what does that mean? So there was uh, that was where I made my fire ceremony temple, and then I had a water temple and an earth and a wind temple. So all the elements were represented. I had a sweat lodge, so it would run ceremonies for the community and whatnot. But through all of that, through having all those offerings available to people, the thing that I was most pushed for and through, John, was that I was told very specifically how sacred that land was. And when this Hawaiian kahuna came and said, okay, who's the steward of this land? And I pulled all my land partners forward. He said, no, this is your responsibility. You are the kahu. You are the gatekeeper of the sacred here. And I was like, so that responsibility and that like, whoa, can I really do this? You know, and he, he guided me a bit, and we had, rituals and ceremonies on land. And the thing that pieced Peru together for me there was like, okay, that wasn't just something that I did, but he said in his, blessing of the land and, introducing me officially to the last lineage of Kauai and whatnot. Then he said, now call your ancestors in from Peru. And he didn't even know my journey of Peru. And so I sang my songs, and there was this beautiful meeting and weaving of these ancestors. And he looked at me and he said, it was like in his own Hawaiian storytelling kind of riddle way. It was like, this is a big journey for you. This is big initiation. And so during my growth there, my offerings to people and to community, it was like I had this responsibility. I wanted to uphold it, but I also didn't want people to think I had an ego and was exclusive, because as we know, this path is not exclusive. And yet I had gotten specific directions from Isis and the Galactic Queen about sacred geometry to lay into my land with crystals to set up the original structure, geometry, and codes of the Isis mystery schools. And I needed to operate as that main guardian facilitator, and that required being very discerning. It was like, stand on your altar. And and they were like, this is a mystery school. And in the ancient mystery schools, the initiate had to go through chambers. You learn certain teachings, right? And then you go into life and you put that into practice. And you come back and you are, tested in whatever way. And then, okay, great, you've got that. You're allowed now into the next chamber. Like, you don't just open all the doors and let everyone come into the heart, because they're not ready for it energetically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And was my responsibility to recognize what somebody was ready for, what level of ceremony were they ready for, et cetera, et cetera. And that went against me wanting to be just inclusive, be seen as inclusive, not seen as exclusive or egoic. And when I didn't follow that protocol, John, I invited in energies and maybe people that didn't even know they were carrying certain energies. And it was like I would invite mess into my life and into my land. And it was like I would get thumped over the head by the ancestors of that land. And they're like, how many times do we have to tell you? Like, you were given this responsibility for a reason. Had nothing to do with your ego or what you wanted. In fact, you kept saying no. And if you don't start listening to us and following these protocols, you are going to invite bigger and bigger messes into your life. And I finally got it. And it was like, stand in your altar, claim who you are, claim what has been given to you, claim what wants to come through you, and know that it is not ego. It is of your heart. It is of your soul's path. And once I finally got that, like, life smoothed out. And I think that that is a really important teaching for everybody. It's like, this time that we're living in, and the beautiful piece of the Andean prophecy of the Taripaipacha, this golden age that we're coming into. We're in the purification stage, we're in the destruction phase. And yet the invitation is to come into our divinity, and that piece of the prophecy of this is a time of encounter, of remembering our divinity, and stepping into that, claiming it, and holding that right now is like I feel the most important thing that any of us can do for the world at this time. And it's not from ego, and it's not about I'm right and you're wrong, or my path's right and yours isn't.
Right.
It's about that at all. But like claiming that sovereignty and the genuine, authentic self, like being so real with yourself, no matter how anyone else perceives it, thinks about you, any of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's just so beautiful. Thank you so much for that, because it, you just kind of covered some like key things. One, this is all universal. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet. These truths are universal. They hold true. You know, being impeccable, right? That's a lot of what you just described. It's not about being a perfect saint and never making mistakes and et cetera, et cetera. But it is about remembering and acting upon the responsibility that you have as a steward and as a facilitator and as a person of service. You the impeccability is not because you're being judged. The impeccability is because if it's a mess, it's so much harder to get anything done. You keep your place clean, you keep the energy clean, just so that you can get the basic stuff done, right? And then I loved when you said, I asked, you got to start asking questions. Like, part of the problem with our frontal lobe and our ego is all the assumptions and all the things we think we can figure out.
Mhm.
And we can't. Like, you have to accept, no matter how experienced, how knowledgeable, how much you've learned, how smart you are, clever, or IQ or whatever, like, the best thing to do is to keep asking questions, right? Like, tell me more. What does that mean?
What am
Wait,
I
which
missing?
one is it? You know what I mean? Like, that was genius, right? Like, which queen? What are you talking about? Right? And like, so, and then discernment. I mean, my goodness, right? It's universal. You've got to be impeccable. You got to ask questions, and you got to be discerning. I mean, this is true across the board. And particularly as the shaman or the healers or the medicine people, right, where or really kind of a leader or an example of any kind, or a teacher, like, it's again not about being more perfect, but it is about recognizing the responsibility that you've placed upon yourself, and then practicing the discernment, right, which is just always, I can never emphasize with people enough that discernment is so important for all these reasons, not because it's a judgment, not because something's good or bad, and you shouldn't judge, but really because it requires discernment to function, right, to basically, like, make
Navigate.
sure you're not messing around with the wrong stuff and going down the wrong path. And what was our teacher Alberto would say, um like, for example, when you go to the jungle and you do ayahuasca, let's say, or something like that, right? Like, if you don't have a good ayahuasquero, someone leading the ceremony that can hold a tight space, and which is discernment, right? Keep that out, let that in. Um, it can set your healing journey back 3 years. Like, you think you're going to, like, do a final piece of your, and if there's not enough discernment and there's not enough of these things that have been taken into consideration, it can just simply mess you it could just set you back, right? It's not good or bad. It's just majorly inconvenient, right? And a waste of energy and potentially harmful.
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
so you just I just love how beautifully not only you articulated that, but clearly you live it and you practice it in a way that I'm personally in awe of. I wish I even,
Mm.
uh, had that. And it's like, um, and then you take certain places, and we were also taught this, what they call in Quechua the huaca, right, where the veil between the worlds is thin, where that is very conducive to communication between the physical and non-physical worlds or dimensions or time and space, back in time, forward in time, like Lemuria and the future, and in the impeccability, right, is even more important there, just because the consequences are greater. Same thing with the ayahuasca ceremony and so on and so forth. So and so I felt this on Kauai. I went to Kauai. I and didn't have your kind of space holding available. Like, in other words, I was just goofing around and whatever and I got hurt. Like, I got physically hurt, you know? And it's like, what? And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I should have known. Like, Hawaii is not the place you mess around. Like, you don't goof around. You've got to be extra impeccable in huacas, in places where not only is the earth still coming out of the mantle, right? Like, in other words, this is where, like, the earth is still rapidly growing and changing, but the spirits of that, right?
Mhm.
That there's everybody should know, and I think they maybe know by now, that there's those which like to assist you and facilitate you and free and empower you, the benevolent ones, right? The angels. It depends what language you use and what your culture and your background, your religion is, but there's beings that want to help, and then there's the ones that want to eat you. They want to take your soul. They want to just get you to fall, to kill yourself, to whatever. And those are the
Or
demons,
they
right? And
want
it's like,
or they want to seduce you.
well, yeah, any which way they can to steal your power, your sovereignty, right? Like you said, there's so many ways they act, and without impeccability and discernment, you're kind of a sitting duck in a lot of ways. Like, you need serious protection. And I just think you articulated that really beautifully, and I appreciate that, you know, and that you experienced it, that you actually, it helps to go through it. It helps to, like, have the contrast of, oh yeah, I messed up, and boy, did I pay a price for that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Like, we're not speaking out of books here. You're
No,
not speaking from
it's
something
life
you
experience.
read in a book. Like, this is lived knowledge,
Live
and
knowledge.
it's the
Yeah.
hard way, but it's good. It's good to
But it,
share.
anything with depth is going to be difficult at times. And to me, anything worth living is deep. Doesn't mean it's not joyful, because I'm all about joy and
You
playfulness.
are.
That's sacred play.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a depth that requires, kind of a warrior spirit, one that can get knocked down and get back up, and one that can serve and know who they're serving and why they're serving it, and be able to acknowledge, if we've gotten off into the weeds a little bit, and pull ourselves back, acknowledge if we've, you know, maybe not been right or projected something into the world that was, yeah, not in pono, not in right relationship, and recognize that and correct ourselves, and to be in some ways the watcher of ourselves,
Yeah.
and Yeah, so that, I continued when I was in Hawaii. I was then going back and forth to Peru, and when I was in a gathering, um, I guess it was about the end of 2007, and um, and I had continued to study with a few other Andean teachers, and just, no one holds all the pieces of the puzzle, no one holds all the information, and so I made journeys to many other mountains, went to Bolivia, Island of the Sun, whatnot, and yeah, so I was back in this gathering, or back in the Sacred Valley in 2007, and I was with a friend, and I was sort of mentoring her a little bit. She had just gotten into the light body school, so I was kind of mentoring her a little bit along the way. And there was an ayahuascaran in the circle. And this was sort of a circle of medicine keepers and different healers. And at that point, I had already been to the jungle. I had been and worked with grandmother ayahuasca and felt that
Hmm.
was which was extraordinary. And I won't, I don't need to go into that journey, but my intention was to meet the absolute. I wanted to know what existence really truly at the core was about, because there's a lot going on down here, and there's a lot going on in the realms, and what ties it all together. And that was my intention. And it was a very, very, very intense journey in the jungle with just me, a friend,
Hmm.
and the ayahuascaran and his apprentice. And somehow, John, I didn't throw up. I didn't move for 5 hours.
Hmm.
Somehow I knew how to navigate. And it was like someone turned 10 TV screens on at the same time, all the things that were some relevant, some not relevant, some trying to distract me. And I just was holding my prayer. I'm like, just take me to the meaning, take me to the center, take me to the core, Mother Earth, Pachamama, just in prayer. Well, that journey through many cycles of life and death, and watching everything die, including my parents, and feeling my entire body disintegrate and melt into the jungle, and me becoming one with it and losing my identity of my idea of, I don't know, a physical form.
Hmm.
But what came out of it was, at the end, everything went just dark, including when my eyes were open. There were no stars in the sky or anything, and I was like, okay, there is no meaning. Like, it's emptiness. It's what, like, I make the meaning. I don't understand. Like, so it was like, okay, just take a deep breath. It's okay. Just take a deep breath. And out of the cosmos, this dark void space began to come streams of rainbow. And you talked about the rainbow. Streams of rainbow light coming through, weaving together, and one letter at a time, that was like reverberating throughout all dimensions, all time and space, was the letter Love. And this transmission of this Munai in the Andean tradition, which means unconditional love, service, that fabric that weaves everything together,
Hmm.
through my whole body, and just like waves of it. And I was laughing and crying and like trying to jump up and down at the same time.
Yeah.
It was Garen came over, and he had a big smile on his face, and he said, ¿Quieres más medicina? Would you like more medicine? I was like, oh no. No,
Yeah, I'm
no.
good.
I think I got it. Okay, so this
Yeah.
is my mission,
Oh,
to return to that
amazing.
state, hold that state. So fast forward back to 2007, I'm in this circle. It's coming to a close. My friend really wants to sit with the tea, wants to sit with grandmother, never has. She says, will you ask Javier, the ayahuascaran who's here, if he has, a ceremony planned, and will you sit with me? Will you go? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel pretty complete with that medicine. And I was like, and I just heard this, yes, you need to. So I said, okay, I'll ask him. And Javier was kind of an intense guy, um, very loving and very sweet, but had these eyes that was just like, man, those are so piercing.
Yeah.
And said, "My friend does not drink. I have, but we're going to be here in Peru for a while longer. Do you have a ceremony that we could join?" And he looked at me and he took his glasses off and he said, "Yes, I've been planning your ceremony. It's this night, da da da." And I was like, "Uh, okay." And I just kind of like took it lightly, you know. I was like, "I don't want to hear that." Like planning your
Right.
ceremony, like so that ceremony, he had me sit right next to him. And in that ceremony was when grandmother was taking me back into lifetimes in the jungle and serving the medicine and healing people with the various plants and reminding me of, well, she didn't remind me. She said, I need you to facilitate our ceremonies. And I said, "Thank you so much. I am so honored that you would ask me that, but I don't know that I want that job. You know, it's a big job, and I can't move to the jungle for 2 years to apprentice." And she just was quiet and sweet and loving, and then she'd kind of come over onto this side and like wait for me, and then whew, I'd be taken back to the jungle of that time and singing and brewing the medicine and just that. And then I'd come back into the space where I was physically, and I'm like, "I can't move to the jungle. I just bought land, I live in Hawaii, da 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 da." And finally Javier stood up and he took his shikapa, that the plant here that you use for
Oh
fight.
yeah, I remember that well.
Remember that?
I have a good story with
It's like
that.
just brought me back into flashbacks, but yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
boxed me up in the head.
That was once the Tasmanian devil in one of my ceremonies. It went buzzing, and all he was doing was shaking. And I thought, what is that? I didn't
What the
even,
heck
I
is
didn't
going
know, I didn't know the guy had that. Uh, yeah, and I was like, "What is that?" And then when the lights kind of came on, I was like, "Oh God, it was just some leaves. That's good because it
on?
seemed like."
Wasn't
Anyway,
supposed to be.
all good
Yeah,
stuff. Brings
opens
back
up all
memories.
kinds of
Yeah,
dimensions and portals. But so Javier hit me over the head and with it, and he said, "I suggest you stop arguing and say yes." And I was like, "How do you know what's going on?" I mean, I know I'm kind of sitting close to you. Like, how do you know? Like, he heard everything and was witnessing it. And grandmother Aya had told him, before, like, and he kind of, when we were in the circle, I would find him like looking at me really intensely, and I'd kind of look away, like, wow, what's the deal here? And that was the deal. So
I
I said,
mean, yeah,
so
I mean, oh, sorry, keep going.
no, that's okay. I just was going to say, again, it was another one of those moments of yes, and how is
Right.
this going to happen? I,
Yeah,
right? I got
you
back
got
to,
to say yes. I mean, this is I was just going to share that I think what a lot of people don't understand is that we are not like marketing guru. We're not driving our career as shamans. We said we want to be of service, and then pretty much from that point on, we keep having to say yes to things we probably would rather not. Like, it's like, this wasn't my idea. I
no,
really didn't write this book because I wanted to become an author and write a book and get on the bestseller list. I wrote the book because I was somehow compelled, and it was a pain in the butt, and selling it's even a bigger pain in the butt. And yeah, and just about everything else you've ever seen me do has been like, why am I doing this? I don't know, and maybe I'll know someday. So yeah, I think people
right.
need to understand, like, when you sign up for service, it's a big surrender to a lot of moments like that, where you go, no, not now. I
Same
just
convenience.
bought this land. Like, but it
Yeah.
works. It works out, right? Eventually.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think the more you embody the yes full-heartedly and trust in your connection with spirit and connect in your connection with your own soul, and you trust that beyond what your mind can dream up or, think is the right way to go, life becomes so rich and so, so beautiful. And so, yeah, I got back to Hawaii having no idea how it was going to happen. I didn't know that people had brought the plant from Peru and were growing it there on the island. I didn't, so I'm telling my friend, Yumi, about this, and she says, "Oh yeah, this guy that lives just down the road from the land, your land, um, knows how to brew it. He's been holding circles for a long time." And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, what? Yeah, well, there you go. The universe also delivers, right? Like it tells you
totally.
to say yes, but then it also finds a way to kind of make it work, and that is a beautiful, beautiful lesson, I think, you
Yeah,
know. So,
it really is.
so tell me, okay. So I think we're getting close to wrapping up, and I wanted to um I always like to do this in like in the spirit of the destiny retrieval, right? So, what's next for Chandra Sun Eagle? What's next with your, as far as you know, but like where are things headed presently? How can people find you? I'm going to put links and everything, obviously that kind of thing. But honestly, where's your vision going next?
That's a really, really good question. I don't know that I can fully answer it. I'll give you what I do know, what I have.
Okay, that's good. That's perfect, right? That's kind of that would be expected from the real deal. Anyway, I'd be worried if you had an answer for that right
So
away.
I'm currently in northern Arizona, and I'm sitting in my teepee in my healing space, which is people come for retreats. I only hold, small intimate groups with the plant medicine ceremonies. Um, Unless somebody asks me to come to their sanctuary and hold for a little bit larger group, I will. So here I am in northern Arizona for I'm not quite sure how long. I'm headed towards southern Colorado, and in the meantime, what spirit has and my soul, I guess, has really been guiding me towards is making myself more available to more people, and how to do that through online. So I was putting together a full 9-month immersion, and but needed a space to host up to 10 people. Part of that vision wasn't coming about, and spirit was like, you have to pivot, you've got to make this, like, so I broke it down, and what came out of that 9-month immersion has been one of the really most beautiful 8-week courses that I've about to finish actually tomorrow night, and it's called Architects of the New Earth. And
Beautiful.
it is a weaving of teachings, practices, and rituals from the Andes. Working with the light body, clearing the light body of imprints, past life stuff, soul retrieval work, and with Hawaiian wisdom teachings as well. But all that weaves together to help us move out of that state of survival and distress and into this and out of victimhood and into activating the creator within. Your website, Dreaming into Being. It's like
Hmm.
we are here as the creators of what's to come next. It's kind of up in the air, and yes, there are, I would say,
Right.
potential timelines that are lit up, but it's like, what do we want to create here? And the starts with the remembering of self, the activation of the light body, the coming back into connection with the heart portal where the soul and spirit come in, and remembering our you know superpowers in a way, in a very practical way. And so that course I'm offering, and I'll probably offer it again starting in July. And another course that is really beautiful for people that want to dive more into like the medicine will work and working with the elements. And that course is called Restoring the Sacred Hoop of Life. And as we do that, we restore the sacred hoop within us. So, and that again is filled with all kinds of daily practices, breath practices, rituals, and whatnot. And I work with people remotely as well, individually. Sonkovia came to me when I was living on Kauai. So Path of the Heart, because that's really what this is all about. Whatever path you choose, make sure it's a path with heart.
It all comes back to love,
Yep.
right? And Munai,
Yep.
agape, and it's all the same thing. But yeah, it's beautiful. Well,
And then,
I
oh
think it's
yeah,
great.
go ahead.
Keep going. What else?
Well, I was just going to say, I did create an app on a larger or a platform on a larger um, app that's called Passion app, but I've got a whole library of shamanic journeys, meditations, breath work,
Oh,
nervous system
great.
reset, and that's called the Spiritual Transformation Hub. And I can send you
Please do.
yeah,
Yes.
the link to it. Yeah, and then I've got my book out there, Looking Back on the Future, which is just steeped in the Andean um, seven spiritual laws that help us climb that ladder back up to our higher consciousness. I think there's another book, and you said something about writing a book and all of that, and it was like that wasn't something I wanted to do either.
Right.
So anyway,
Totally.
and yeah, I'm here. I'm available to people who, feel a resonance with me and what I have to share and offer. And, I yeah, I welcome.
Yeah. Well, I've had the privilege of knowing you for pretty good time, pretty long time now, and if people want to work with a master in the truest sense, medicine woman in the truest sense, I would suggest they find you. When we first met in Peru, I mean again, you have that energy. It's like an unlimited uh, connection to source energy, which is pretty cool. Like if I had to use an analogy, I'd say like you're the Navy SEAL commander, right? Like this is like the heart. This is the thing, and then there's the people who you know can hold that space, and you're definitely that. And I am super grateful to know you, and I'm super grateful to be able to share this with my listeners. And I really hope people check it out if you're interested and serious about all things or anything empowering, healing, spiritual, knowledge, learning, doing this work, any of it. You really have just a beautifully comprehensive and well-rounded set of knowledge and experience, and just the ability to be joyful, like you said, and hold space and to be in that place of love. It's really amazing. So can't thank you enough for all the hard work you do, hanging in there, continuing, growing, being my friend, showing up in my space here for this little bit of time and sharing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, John. Thank you for all those words, and I feel that. And when I first met you, I felt the same way about you. So right back at you.
Ah, thanks. That means a lot. It really does. I need that. Keep me going.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, thank
yeah.
you again, and maybe we'll do it again.
Yep. That sounds great. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.
Aloha.